It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
And here I am. Hi, it's episode number 46 of the Carson Show podcast. Hope you're enjoying the podcast thus far. Also, checking out the new website, which is robcarsonshow.com. Also, Facebook, Rob Carson Show. Okay, Facebook at Rob Carson Show. We have a lot to get to today. Today is so busy. I think I'm going to be doing two podcasts. I may be doing number, 47 later on today, just because there's so much to get to. Today is the 8th of March, and today, the Day Without Women is happening. All right, so it's an international Day of Women, but in the United States, a bunch of leftist groups have gotten together and hijacked it, co-opted it, and asked women to stay home from work, don't go shopping, whatever. Go out and raise some hell, I don't know, burn some dumpsters. Who knows? Anyway, that's what's going on today. My wife went to work today, by the way. I don't even think she knows that this is happening. And not because she's clueless, she just, who cares? Who cares? So we're going to get into it. I think it does a tremendous disservice to women, because what you're essentially saying is that after all of the advances we've made in our country over the centuries, and since 1919, when the vote was given to women, now in 2017, where women outnumber men at universities, where women can do just about anything, women are still a protected class, by and large. I'm a white guy. I can get fired like that, and I have been. All right? It is more difficult to fire a woman. I might also add that women at work are a protected class. You cannot put your hand on their shoulder without being threatened with a lawsuit. And listen, I'm not a sexual harasser. I avoid body contact at work because, I'm not a cad, first of all. But women are a protected class. And now, after all of these things, women are claiming victimhood again. That's what this is about. This is about making women victims again. The same thing happened with the Black Lives Matter movement and the movement on campus that's going on right now with regard to black students. It is making them victims all over again. Or at least claiming victimhood status. Claiming victimhood status. That's what all of these movements are about. And I'm going to get into who's behind the movement, who's behind the marches. Going to hear some audio from people who are involved with it. And also, I've got towards the end of the podcast, and this is largely going to be about women and the Women's Day Without Women. In a little while, I'm going to play some audio from a woman named Christina Hoff Sommers. Maybe you've heard of her. No, she didn't sing lead for the Bengals. All right. Resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. And she explains the data with regard to women and the faux data that is out there where people say that women make 77 or 76 cents on the dollar. It's not correct. Also, 1 in 5 women don't get sexually assaulted when they are university students before they graduate. All right. So that's just not true. All right. So let's get into it real quick here. The man behind the Women's March. Yes, a man is behind the Women's March. That would be none other than George Soros. He contributed to 100 groups partnering with Women's March and the Day Without Women. Remember the Women's March in D.C.? There were like 75 very left-of-center groups, none of them pro-life. Mm-hmm. Mr. Soros and his Open Society Foundations contributed $246 million between 2010 and 2014 to 100 of the 544 groups listed as partners in the Women's March. So there were 544 partners. Some of these groups include the Center for Reproductive Rights, abortion, MoveOn.org, and the Human Rights Campaign. The top recipient of Soros-related largesse, the ACLU. They received $37 million. Human Rights Watch, $32 million. Planned Parenthood, abortion, $21 million. The march in Washington drew an estimated 500,000 leftist women to Washington, D.C. Okay. Would you like to know who helped to co-organize the protests today? A woman named Razmia Youssef Odeh, former member of the terror group the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PLUP. In 1969, Oda and several cohorts planted 2 bombs at a Jerusalem supermarket. Her actions resulted in the death of 2 Hebrew University students, Leon Kainer and Edward Chaffee. 1970, Oda was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, but was later released in a prisoner swap after 10 years. Oda currently faces deportation for falsifying her 2004 application for U.S. citizenship by concealing her terrorist past. All right? Now, Oda is not the only one with a violent past. It appears that several of the speakers and organizers of the Women's March had violent backgrounds. One of the featured speakers, and if you haven't heard about this by now, you haven't been paying attention. 62, this woman, Donna Hyleton, 1985, along with several others, kidnapped a 62-year-old real estate broker, Thomas Vigliardo, tortured him to death, raped him with a metal pole. Angela Davis was also a speaker at the march. Davis came to prominence in the 1960s as a leader of the Communist Party USA and the militant Black Panther Party. She's best known for being the second black woman to make the FBI's 10 most wanted list for her role in the courtroom shootout that resulted in the death of Judge Harold Haley. That's who's behind the march, folks. All right, and that's who's behind the Day Without Women. The Day Without Women. Oh, did you hear? International Women's Day is today, obviously. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's wife set off a media firestorm. She said, as we mark International Women's Day, let's celebrate the boys and men in our lives who encourage us to be who we truly are, who treat girls and women with respect. That's what she said online. She said, joining in this way could create a movement that inspires more men to join the fight to build a better tomorrow with equal rights and opportunities for everyone, because hashtag equality matters. Conservative Michelle Rempel tweeted, Women's Day is about women, not men. Woman from Vancouver tweeted, this is so problematic, I don't even know where to start. International Women's Day is a day to celebrate the intersectional feminism and acknowledge the strides women have taken for equality while simultaneously acknowledging the active misogyny women and women-identified individuals. That means you could have a penis and just say you're a woman. Encounter on a daily basis. It is not a day about men, even though there are some men involved who claim they're women and dress like women. Okay. So there's a firestorm there. What do the day without men be like? What do you suppose a day without men would be like? I'm going to share an audio blog that I recorded today, and I will repeat some of the things that I've just said in the audio blog. But it's called A Day Without Leftist Women. So I'm going to play that before the end of the show, and let you hear it. And then we're going to also, like I said, we're going to hear from Christina Hoff-Sommers, among others. Now, this, according to the Washington Times, it's being billed as a day without women, but apparently only pro-union, pro-choice, anti-Israeli women who can afford to skip work need apply. The one-day general strike is coming under fire from the right and left for its mixed political messages, as well as the havoc caused by the closures of some schools Wednesday driven by anticipated staff absences. 2 large school districts, Alexandria Public Schools in Virginia, Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools in North Carolina, have announced that they will close in anticipation of hundreds of staff absences, igniting a backlash from parents. A possible reason for the absences, the U.S. protest is being led by the Women's March in Washington. And, of course, we know that they partnered with the AFL-CIO, by the way, and the American Federation of Teachers. Conservative pundit Molly Hemingway, who lives in Alexandria, posted phone numbers Monday for the school district, along with a message. Local government schools are shuttering for leftist propaganda day. So thankful my daughters have better role models in the Lutheran school. All right? So the day is billed as a worldwide one-day demonstration of economic solidarity. Organizers also have called on supporters to avoid shopping, with exceptions for small businesses and minority-owned businesses. All right, so even their the boycott is excluding, or exclusive, I should say. The goal is to highlight the economic power and women have in the U.S. and global economies. while calling attention to the economic injustices women and gender nonconforming people continue to face. Women are nonconforming. So the manifesto, by the way, calls also for a living wage, which is, a leftist thing. Fair pay. It's already fair. We'll get to that shortly. Solidarity with sex workers' rights movement. Okay. It effectively shuts out pro-life women. According to Kristen Hawkins, president of the Students for Life of America. She said, does Planned Parenthood, a main sponsor of the Women's March, approve of the closing of schools and putting unnecessary burdens on women, especially working mothers who rely on a regular school schedule? Are they okay with children from low-income families who will go hungry today? By the way, one of the sponsors also of the Women's March in January, Linda Sarsour, is an outspoken advocate of Sharia law, which is very anti-woman, by the way, and the anti-Israel boycott, divest, and sanctions movement. Now, despite the protest's staunch left-wing agenda, even some progressives are uncomfortable with the event, arguing that only privileged women have the wherewithal to take the day off without economic consequences. And by the way, this is modeled after the last month's Day Without Immigrants. And my God, that brought the country to a screeching halt, didn't it? No, not really. Not so much. Not so much. Oh, also, some ex-Clinton staffers, Hillary Clinton staffers, are part organizing in this event. All right. Apparently, at least a half a dozen former Clinton operatives helping guide the Women's March and its anti-Trump agenda. These include 5 strategic advisors listed on the organization's website. They're former Clinton operatives. Strategic advisor Deara Ballinger previously worked as the Clinton campaign director of engagement. And we told you this. Hillary Clinton was involved in the anti-Trump movement. She hired people to stand in line at Trump rallies, and she's continuing her anti-Trump propaganda now. She is exactly the same as George Soros. Another Women's March advisor, Meredith Shepard, was a member of the Clinton campaign's National Finance Committee, raised at least $100,000 in her unsuccessful election efforts, and thank God they were unsuccessful. A third advisor, Sarah Sophie Flicker, is an activist who worked extensively with the Clinton campaign. So the Clinton footprint is all over this. It's a flat, actually. It's a very comfortable shoe. Hillary also received an award in New York for the Girls Inc. Celebrating Women of Achievement luncheon, I should say. If we are serious, she said in her speech, we're serious about building a better, stronger, and fairer America. We need to be serious about supporting and nurturing our girls. I'm a father. I never thought about that. I've got a daughter. What is it with supporting and nurturing? I'll have to try that. She said, let us hope there is a wave of young women running for office in America. Let's help them shatter stereotypes and lift each other up. This is not 1970, okay? It's not 1919. She told the audience on Tuesday that the Women's March protested drew thousands of women to Washington the day after Trump's inauguration, inspired a sense of optimism in her that so many could be hired by George Soros. They are among the reasons I am so optimistic about our future. In big ways and small, the unfinished business of the 21st century is the full equality of women. All right, women are equal, all right? It's not legal to pay a woman the same amount of money for the same job. It's just not legal, all right? There are 2 national pieces of legislation that were passed, one of them signed by Barack Obama, the Lilly Ledbetter Amendment, or Act, I should say. It's not legal, all right? If you're working and you're a woman, and there's a guy in your office, and somehow you figure out that you do the same job. Now, you'd also have to be hired at the same time, okay? Or you'd have to be hired first, which would give you seniority. And you have to prove that if he's making more money than you are, if he does not have seniority, if he does the same job as you, then you sue him. That's what you do. All right? But it's not happening. It's not happening. Oh, by the way, a feminist-focused bookstore in Cleveland is giving female authors special attention for Women's History Month. I didn't know it was Women's History Month. Last month was Black History Month. So what she's done is they're turned all the fiction books by male authors with their spines facing inward on the shelves. And they went through 10,000 titles, took all of the female staff at Loganberry Books about 2 hours to complete. I'll bet that place smells like patchouli. All of the male-authored books will stay that way for the next 2 weeks. Truly, this is a metaphor of silencing the male voice, longtime owner Harriet Logan told the Cleveland Scene, at least for this month. A metaphor for silencing the male voice. Well, she's not angry, is she? Silencing the male voice. Wow, unbelievable. It's okay, I guess, right? For men, it's okay to do that. My goodness. It's just amazing. Here's a funny story. DC artist Cass Clemmer wants to destigmatize periods. No, I'm not talking about, punctuation. She wants to degender them as well. She grew up in the Democratic Republic of Congo. She hit puberty in a society that kept mum about menstruation and the biology behind it. Because of her personal experience, she sought to stop the silence while also shining the light on the transgender men who get periods too. And that's impossible. Unless it's a female to male. And yes, I don't know. Do they still? Okay, whatever. To achieve that goal, she's created Tony the Tampon. Yeah, it's a cartoon character. It's literally a tampon with googly eyes. Started posting photos of it to Instagram. The project soon developed into a coloring book called The Adventures of Tony the Tampon. The book has a full range of feminine product characters, including Marina the Menstrual Cup, Patrice the Pad, and Sebastian the Sponge. Okay, but wait. Sebastian, that's a male name, right? Is it? Okay. Sebastian the Sponge is a man, and yes, they do get periods. As it turns out, Clemmer intentionally chose gender-ambiguous names for her book's protagonist as a way to affirm all menstruators. Well, she's really hung up on the old menstruation thing. Although the artist recognized that booksellers might balk at their progressive movement, that didn't faze her. I'd rather help just one genderqueer or trans menstruator. There's a new word for that's the new word. Trans menstruator. Feel like they were seen. Then sell 1,000 copies only to reinforce the boundaries society draws by gendering periods in the first place. I think you have to have a chromosome to menstruate. I'm just saying, and that generally is associated with being a female. And that is generally also decided in the womb. So, if you're a guy and you become a woman, if you were born a guy and you have a penis or a pee-pee, you see, I always say that if you're a man, you have a pee-pee, and if you're a woman, you have a nina. That's how I explained it to my children. But if you are a man and you have your penis removed, as much as I would like to tell you, you will menstruate, it is not going to happen. It is it's impossible. I don't want to break the news in a very bad way. Unfortunately, Caitlyn Jenner will never menstruate. Part of that is because she is almost 70 years old. So, little late. Now, unsurprisingly, menstruation, not the only biological female process that has been labeled as gendered by the PC police. Both pregnancy and lactation have been co-opted as well. In August 2016, both The Atlantic and Cosmo ran articles on what they call chest feeding, the new inclusive name for breastfeeding, because, women aren't the only ones who do it, apparently. Although I would venture to say that for most men, if you are chest feeding, your child is going to starve. I could be wrong. All right, let's get to the audio from Christina Hoff Sommers. I think it's pretty fascinating stuff, and this is not meaning to be vitriolic. All right, this is just meant to set the record straight. All right, set the record straight, because there are statistics that are thrown out there, bandied about, and what they do is they continue to victimize women. And I hope my daughter never wants to be considered a victim. All right. And I hope my wife feels she's a victim of anything. She's an equal in our home. My daughter is equal to my son. My wife has a wonderful job. She's treated very well. She has a great salary. She's an equal with her peers. I left a radio station where the general manager was a woman or is a woman. CEO of the company is a woman. I didn't make as much money as either of them. Anyway, let's get into the minimum wage, or the wage gap myth, according to Christina Hoff-Summers. Again, she's a resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, has long been on the forefront of disapproving many a feminist claim, the wage gap myth being one of the most popular. Now, the problem that I have here, she has done pieces in Time magazine for this. She's teamed up with PragerU. Why isn't this message being heard? Why isn't this message out there? Why aren't people realizing, why aren't news media organizations dispelling this myth? Because if you do that, then women are no longer victims. And they need victims. They need anger. That's what the Black Lives Matter movement is all about. That's what these hate crimes that are happening around the country, which probably are being done by leftists. Eight bomb threat calls came from one Bernie Sanders voter in St. Louis. These are coordinated. Another round of calls happened yesterday. And there's a narrative in the country that hate crimes are on the rise because Donald Trump was voted president. It's absurd on the face of it because he's more pro-Israel than I think anybody since Reagan, maybe even more so. But there is a meme, there is a narrative being pushed that Donald Trump is inspiring anti-Semitism, and I'll bet you anything these are coordinated. I would even venture to say coordinated by some of the people who Mr. George Soros helps to fund. So we will listen to a little of this piece. I put it on my Facebook page at Rob Carson Show. Again, this is Christina Hoff-Summers talking about the wage gap myth.
If for the same work, women only make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes.
By the way, this is a point that I have been making for years. This point I have been making for years. It's common sense.
Why don't businesses hire only women? Wages are the biggest expense for most businesses, so hiring only women would reduce costs by nearly a quarter, and that would go right to the bottom line. Don't businesses want to be profitable?
I think you should fire every man in your office. This is true. You need to fire every man in your office, and you need to replace them with women, and you need to pay them 77 cents on their dollar.
Or are they really just bad at math? Well, actually, it's the feminists, celebrities, and politicians spreading this wage gap myth who have the math problem. Here's why. The 77 cents on the dollar statistic
Here we go.
is calculated by dividing the median earnings of all women working full-time by the median earnings of all men working full-time. In other words, if the average income of all men is, say, $40,000 a year, and the average annual income of all women is, say, $30,800, that would mean that women earn 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. 30,800 divided by 40,000 equals 0.77.
Yes.
But these calculations don't reveal a gender wage injustice because they don't take into account occupation, position, education, or hours worked per week.
Men and women, a lot of the times, migrate to different fields. That's just the way it is. I would venture to say there are very few female coal miners and probably very few steel workers.
Even a study by the American Association of University Women, a feminist organization, shows that the actual wage gap shrinks to only 6.6 cents when you factor in different choices men and women make.
Yes.
And the key word here is choice. The small wage gap that does exist has nothing to do with paying women less, let alone with sexism. It has to do with differences in individual career choices that men and women make. In 2009, the U.S. Department of Labor released a paper that examined more than 50 peer-reviewed studies and concluded that the oft-cited 23-cent wage gap may be almost entirely the result of individual choices being made by both male and female workers.
For instance, have you been to the dentist lately? Okay. Most of the dental hygienists there are women. I don't know why that is. It just is. Have you been to an elementary school lately? Seriously, have you been to an elementary school lately? My daughter's school has a female principal, I would venture to say probably 75, 80% of the teachers there are women. The janitor is a man.
Well, let's look at some of those choices. Georgetown University compiled a list of the 5 best-paying college majors and the percentage of men and women majoring in those fields.
Okay.
Number 1 best-paying major, petroleum engineering, 87% male. Number 2, pharmaceutical sciences, 48% male. 3,
Whoa. That's less than half.
mathematics and computer science, 67% male.
This isn't because women are being excluded. It's just guys dig math and petroleum science.
4, aerospace engineering, 88% male.
Again, dudes are into aerospace engineering. It's not excluding women.
5, chemical engineering, 72% male. Notice that women outrepresent men in only 1 of the 5 top-paying majors by only a few percentage points. Now consider the same study's list of the 5 worst-paying college majors. Number 1, counseling and psychology, 74% female.
Again, not because they're being forced to do it.
2, early childhood education, 97% female.
97% female. I guess I was a little bit low on the number of male to female teachers in my daughter's elementary school.
3, theology and religious vocations, 66% male.
Okay.
4,
So guys get into theology more, become priests and preachers and all that stuff. Well, obviously women can't become priests. I disagree with that. But they're not paid very well.
human services and community organization, 81% female. And 5,
Well, community organizers make money.
social work, 88% female.
Okay.
Here, it's the women who lead in all but one category. Even within the same profession, men and women make different career choices that impact how much money they make. Take nursing, where male nurses, on the whole, earn 18% more than female nurses. The reason? Male nurses gravitate to the best-paying nursing specialties, they work longer hours, and disproportionately find jobs in cities with the highest compensation.
Oh, there you go.
Now, here's how one expert on nursing compensation, Professor Linda Aiken of the University of Pennsylvania, sums up the data. Career choices and educational differences explain most, if not all, the gender gap in nursing. The Department of Labor paper concluded that once these differences are accounted for across all professions, the unexplained wage gap is somewhere between 4.8 and 7%, almost identical to the 6.6 percentage gap found by the AAUW. But why is there any gap at all? No one knows for sure, as both the AAUW and the Labor Department concede. There are so many variables that drive wages that no single study can cover them all.
Okay, there you go. Also, I might mention, and back to the, when it comes to universities, there's been a 300% increase in majors in women's and gender studies, all right? I would venture to say most of them are women, and I would venture to say you're not going to get a terribly good job with them.
Few wage gap studies control for variables such as dangerous work environment.
Yes, okay, that's another thing. Who does the dangerous jobs in America? Who does the dangerous jobs in America? Who digs the coal? Who mines the coal? Who makes the steel? Who works on the high-rise buildings? Who climbs to the top of antenna and replaces light bulbs? You never see women doing these things. I don't know why that is. Is it the testosterone? I'm not sure. But they do, and these jobs generally pay better.
Men are vastly overrepresented, for example, on oil rigs.
There you go.
And here's another variable. Men are more willing and able to work long hours without advance notice. According to Harvard economist Claudia Golden, even if 2 lawyers have the same education, same specialty, and work the same number of hours, firms pay more to someone who is willing to always be on call and ready to be in the office when the firm needs them.
There you go.
As opposed to wanting a more regular schedule.
All right. So again, you can check out that entire video on my Facebook page. It is Facebook at Rob Carson Show. Okay. Also on Twitter at Rob Carson. Now, I did promise you an audio blog. I'm going to go ahead and do it live. So an audio blog I wrote this morning. It's called A Day Without Leftist Women. Today is a day without women. In the United States, a day ostensibly for women to claim victim status by not going to work. Marching, stopping traffic, all of the sundry disruptive and destructive things we can officially associate with the American left. Let's get one thing straight. This is not a day without women. This is a day without leftist, Democrat, pro-abortion, Hillary voting, Donald Trump hating women. My wife went to work today. She's not wearing red, a show of solidarity with the day without women, and also the official color of the Communist Party. Why not pink? It's usually always pink. Did you know the wife of Canada's Prime Minister, Gregoire Trudeau, had the audacity to honor men and has been excoriated for it? I wonder what a day without men would be like. Oh, wait, those happen all the time. For instance, every day is a day without men for the families whose husbands and fathers are deployed overseas for a year. Every day is a day without men for wives who greet their husband's flag-draped coffin at the airport. Men fight wars, men mine coal, men drive trucks, men are steel workers, men are construction workers and farmers. Not saying women can't do these jobs. These are generally the jobs men take. I have an 11-year-old daughter. I've never told her she had to be a teacher or dental assistant or a nurse. I've always told her she can be or do anything she wants to. She is an equal. She is not a victim. That's going to do it for the podcast today. Check out the Facebook page at Rob Carson Show, and then, of course, the website, robcarsonshow.com. If you could become a Patreon, that means giving me $1 or $5 or $10 a month on the Patreon website. It would help me keep the lights on, and I'd greatly appreciate it, and I can continue doing podcasts like this. Just go to Patreon, Patreon.com. Look for Rob Carson Show. Have a glorious rest of your day, and we will see you next time for episode number 47. God bless. Take care. See you then.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.